I just watched a viral video with millions of views claiming that these 5 bourbon brands are blatantly ripping off consumers, and I bet many of you here are nodding in agreement. But let's hold on for a second. If they were truly as bad and overpriced as people say, why do they keep flying off the shelves? Why are thousands of connoisseurs still willing to line up at 5 a.m. just to snag a bottle that's supposedly a total scam? Today, I'm going to play the devil's advocate. I'm going to prove to you that the 5 most criticized bourbons are, in fact, some of the smartest investments you'll ever make. Maybe you don't see the value, not because the whiskey is bad, but because you're looking at it the wrong way. Let's begin. 1. Wild Turkey 101. Wild Turkey 101 is one of those rare bourbons where honesty is evident from the very first number on the label. The 101 isn't there to impress. It's the actual proof of the liquid. 101 proof, or 50.5% ABV. This means Wild Turkey adds very little water before bottling, preserving far more flavor compounds than the sea of commercial bourbons that sit at a mere 80 or 90 proof. While many premium brands lower their alcohol content to make the whiskey smoother for the masses, Wild Turkey 101 stays true to the bold, spicy, and full-bodied structure of traditional bourbon. Although it doesn't boast a prominent age statement, Wild Turkey is open about the fact that most of the juice in the bottle is aged between 6 to 8 years, significantly longer than the 4-year minimum required by bourbon law. The paradox is that despite this maturation time and high proof, it typically retails in the US for just $22 to $28. In other words, drinkers are paying less than $30 for a 50% plus ABV bourbon with genuine age, hidden behind zero marketing fluff. Wild Turkey 101 doesn't promise luxury. It gives you the raw data and lets the liquid prove its own value. 2. Old Forester 100. Old Forester 100 represents a different kind of honesty. Transparency in the process. Old Forester is one of the very few major Kentucky bourbon brands with total control over its entire production chain, from fermentation and distillation to aging and bottling, without ever having to rely on sourced whiskey. The Old Forester 100 edition is bottled at 100 proof, 50% ABV, a strength high enough to maintain its flavor profile while remaining perfectly balanced. Although it lacks a formal age statement, production records indicate that most of the bourbon in this bottle is aged between 4 and 6 years, long enough for the oak to leave a clear mark, but not so old that the whiskey becomes dry or bitter. With an average price of $23 to $27, Old Forester 100 presents an undeniable contrast. While many $60 to $80 bourbons hide their age, drop their proof below 90, and don't even distill their own spirits, Old Forester provides nearly every vital piece of information a drinker needs at a fraction of the cost. Their honesty doesn't lie in claiming to be premium. It lies in showing you exactly what is in your glass. 3. Evan Williams, Bottled in Bond. Evan Williams Bottled in Bond is the clearest example of honesty guaranteed by federal law rather than marketing hype. The term bottled in bond originates from the 1897 U.S. Federal Act. And to carry that designation on its label, a bourbon must strictly meet 5 conditions. It must be the product of one distillation season by one single distiller, aged for at least 4 years, bottled at exactly 100 proof, 50% ABV, and contain absolutely no additives or artificial coloring. Evan Williams, Bottled in Bond, meets every single one of these requirements, not because they are trying to craft an image of integrity, but because if they don't comply, they simply aren't allowed to use that name. What makes this bourbon truly thought-provoking is the price point, typically retailing for only $16 to $20. This means drinkers are holding a bottle that is at least 4 years old, 100 proof, and strictly regulated by federal law, all for a price significantly lower than many $40 or $50 bottles on the market that fail to provide even basic information like age or distillation source. Evan Williams, Bottled in Bond, doesn't try to win you over with a story. It forces the bourbon industry to be honest with you on its behalf. 4. Four Roses, Single Barrel. Four Roses Single Barrel is proof that transparency doesn't make bourbon less appealing. On the contrary, it makes it more trustworthy. Four Roses is one of the very few distillers that openly shares technical details that most other brands intentionally keep vague, from their specific mash bills to their unique yeast strains. Their single-barrel expression is bottled at 100 proof, 50% ABV, refusing to lower the alcohol content just to make it more marketable. The average age for Four Roses single barrel typically falls between 7 to 9 years, significantly higher than the industry standard for non-age-stated bourbons. More importantly, because every bottle comes from a single barrel, there is no blending to mask individual character or to homogenize the flavor. The drinker knows exactly what they are getting: a bourbon with a bold structure, mature spice, distinct tannins, and a depth that only comes with time. Retailing for around $40 to $50, Four Roses. Single barrel is often placed on the same shelf as other premium bottles, but here is the difference. While those other brands sell the feeling of luxury, Four Roses sells real information. You don't have to take their word for it, because the proof, the age, and the single barrel process speak for themselves. 5. Maker's Mark, Cask Strength. Maker's Mark Cask Strength is the clearest affirmation that a major brand can still be honest if they choose to be. Unlike the standard Maker's Mark, which is diluted down to 45% ABV, the cask strength version is bottled almost exactly as it comes out of the barrel. Its alcohol content typically ranges from 54% to 57% ABV, 108 to 114 proof, depending on the batch. This means the drinker is experiencing the exact liquid the wood created, without being softened or tweaked to suit mass-market palates. The average age for Maker's Mark cask strength is between 6 to 7 years, long enough for the oak and the wheated mash bill to develop a thick structure, natural sweetness, and a long finish. At a typical price of $40 to $45, this is one of the very few cask strength bottles on the market where you aren't paying a premium for a fabricated story or artificial rarity. Maker's Mark doesn't claim this bottle is for everyone, and that's exactly what makes it trustworthy. You might like it or you might not, but you will never feel cheated, because what's inside the bottle is exactly what they claim it to be. If you've ever felt like the longer you drink bourbon, the more confused you get, the higher the price goes, the harder it is to believe the hype, and you've started to doubt your own palate, it's not because you don't know how to drink, it's because this industry doesn't want you to know too much. If you want to keep peeling back the layers on bourbons that are just selling a story, the brands you should steer clear of, and the choices that are actually worth your hard-earned money, subscribe to the channel. Next video: how to spot overpriced bourbon before you waste your money. Drink less, drink smarter, and don't let a fancy label fool you. Thank you for watching.